Hello and welcome back to the Physiology of singing. Yeah. We're talking the larynx, part 3. How to keep your seesaw in balance, essentially. Last video, we talked about subglottal pressure and the supraglottal, the inertance of the supraglottal, the vocal tract essentially above it, that air column above your vocal folds. And how that essentially how that is one of the critical parts to keeping your vocal folds in vibration when you're voicing, which is what creates your cyclical sound wave, right? Your periodic sound wave, these bursts of air molecules pushing on the ones in front of them, and then those ones push on the ones in front of them, and those ones push on the ones in front of them, like a set of dominoes, essentially, and that creates your sound wave. So, your vocal folds are covered in that elasticy mucosa, as we call it, the mucosal lining of the vocal folds. It's soft, it's watery, it's like watery jello, it's the pillow top on your mattress, right, that takes the brunt of the vibrational impact in a nice, easy poof kind of way. And it also is what creates the funky shape, essentially, as vocal folds vibrate. They kind of do this, like, kind of groovy vibration. And that vibratory pattern is what leads to your complex sound wave. So the air bursts aren't these, like, super regular little, like, boop bursts. They're more like, so it's not like a single line of dominoes. It's more like, when you watch those YouTube videos of people who set up those crazy, like, super elaborate dominoes, and they have, like, several domino things happening all at once. It's kind of like that kind of thing. I guess there's an analogy for you. Complex sound wave. A little like that. There's still a pattern there. It's still cyclical, but it has all these harmonics on top of the fundamental, the, like, basic, how much is it opening, closing every second. Cycles per second. Hertz. We call that Hertz in honor of Hertz, because physicists like to name units after people as, like, a form of honor. So there you go. Used to be called cycles per second, though. It really did. I forget when it turned to hertz. Sometime in the 20th century, they started calling it hertz instead. So cycles per second, hertz, same thing. Boom. Cycles per second is something you might have heard of, because cycles per second, a vocal fold vibration, is how many cycles per second your vocal folds vibrate. So if you're singing A440, if you're, like, tuning with the orchestra, I don't know. If you're singing A440, your vocal folds are beating at 440 cycles per second. They are vibrating 440 times per second. If you are singing a high C as a woman, the high C above the treble clef is approximately 1,000 hertz per second. So they're vibrating around there. Oh my gosh, so much vibration, right? But yeah, so the reason those two things are the same is because the sound wave, if you want to hear the pitch at 440 hertz per second, you need a pattern of air molecules moving in a cyclical pattern 440 times per second. You need an area of compression and an area of rarefaction. Okay, so this is a little acoustics here. But I'm talking about that because I'm going to talk a little bit about how do you get that little seesaw into balance. And what I want you to remember is that when we're talking about the sound source, the vocal folds being the source of your sound, the harmonic spectrum you put out from your vocal folds, okay, it does have a bit to do with sound quality, absolutely, in terms of, are you a little breathy, are you a little pressed, are you a little strong, right? So there's definitely some sound quality there. But on the whole, when it comes to just figuring out what nice, easy vocal fold vibration is, you can totally start from the point of your speaking voice if that's the easiest for you to start with as a singer, even if you have a perfectly healthy voice, just to help you to conceptualize the vocal fold vibration and separate it out from what your filter is doing with that sound, what your vocal tract is doing with the sound. I think that's kind of an important thing perceptually for singers to get used to, because that is another area I think that makes singing training so challenging, is what you hear in your head isn't always what's happening, and what you hear in your head you can think, or even what you feel, you think it could be vocal fold, but it might be vocal tract that's creating that particular thing, okay? And I know this from being a singer myself. When you get scoped, right, if you're a singer who's ever had their vocal folds imaged, you think you need to sound really good, don't you? Right? Like let's say they put a rigid endoscope, that's the one that goes in through your mouth to vocal fold, to view your folds. I'm really bad at those. I have a really strong gag reflex, so I like the nose ones. I'm one of those rare people who would much rather have a nasal endoscope, a nase endoscopy, a flexible scope, rather than a rigid. But I'm not. Most people aren't me, so. I see the singers, I've seen this before where, when that scope is in their mouth, a lot of times they'll say, do E, essentially. E, right? You want to voice an E so we can see vocal fold movement. The therapist can see vocal fold movement. And a lot of singers kind of go, like they do kind of this weird E because they have a thing in their throat. And when you're asked to do an E with an endoscope in your throat, you're not really, or in your mouth, sorry, not in your throat, it's in your mouth. When you have a metal rod in your mouth and you're asked to do E, you're not going to hear E in your head. You're going to hear like, right? It's not going to sound like an E. And I think a lot of singers want to do it good. So they think of like, trying to make it pretty. And that actually mucks up the ability of the therapist to see vocal fold vibration because their tongue tends to retract, and the whole reason they ask you to do an E is to get the root of the tongue out of the way so we can just get a nice image of vocal folds. Crazy, huh? And then we do want to see like, yee, go throughout your range, but we don't want to see, if the tongue starts getting in the way, it's like, well, shoot, now we can't see the vocal folds, which is the whole reason we have the scope in your mouth to begin with. So pro tip, I guess, as a singer, don't try to like sound good when you have a rigid endoscope in your mouth. Just don't bother. Just try to just make noise. Make voicing noise. It doesn't have to be pretty. We just want to see them vibrate. So with that in mind, you can either do, so one thing that actually, it came a bit from the singing world, I think, and it's been sort of refined into therapeutic techniques. But for singers, in the therapy world, we call it semi-occluded vocal tract. Inko Tietze, I believe, is the big name who gets attached with bringing this a bit to America. Brad Story was also part of that, who was one of my professors at University of Arizona, but he was Tietze's doctoral student at the time that they were doing all the straw phonation study stuff. And the thought behind semi-occluded vocal tract is essentially a bit of impedance matching. So your glottis is this pretty small opening, like physiologically speaking, relative to the rest of your body. If you think about like the size of my larynx is smaller than my fist, like it's kind of small in there. So you talk about vocal folds adducting, and then you talk about the amount of opening when they're completely open during a cycle of vibration. It's not much. We're talking probably millimeter size, which I know Americans don't tend to know metric very well, but millimeter is very small. If you ever see a metric stick, they're the tiny little tick marks, okay? Millimeter's super tiny. So we're talking I wouldn't say, depending on the person, I don't think it's very big of an opening. So not a lot of air can get through there, right? At any given moment in time, right? So, if you try to blow through teeny little barely opened lips and you try to push through really, really hard, you can get a little buzz like you're playing the trumpet, but which I don't do, but you can but you really can only get through so much, right? You can't just right, let out all your air with a nice open mouth. Try to do that with slightly closed lips or tightly closed lips. It goes a lot slower because only so much can get through, right? It's just like a traffic jam. Only so many cars can get through onto the highway when, you're trying to do that zipper on, right? Everybody's got to slow down a little. Not everybody can get on all at once. You get a little bit of a backup. So that backup is air pressure, okay? The air molecules, you're having more air molecules comprise a smaller space, okay? That's an increase in air pressure. So the idea is, I think, mainly to try to somewhat match the opening, the glottal opening during cycles of vibration with something inside the vocal tract, either an E or a really closed oo, or an umlaut if you're a classical singer, or you speak a language that uses umlauts, which is oo, you know, that E with the oo lips. E tongue, oo lips, oo, umlaut, okay? That's another semi-occluded vocal tract. So you've occluded part of the vocal tract there's part of that opening has been constricted by either the tongue or the lips, essentially, okay? Another way of occluding is that lip buzzy stuff. That's essentially a vocal tract occlusion as well. Straw vocal tract occlusion, for sure. Ooh, which I don't have with me. I should have grabbed one. But ooh, if I imagine a straw on my lips, ooh, it's an occlusion, okay? And the main thing with that, when you use any of those techniques, if you use them in your lessons, if you use them while you're practicing, if you're using them just to play around with, what the heck, whatever it is, the main thing is you don't want to feel like you're pushing, you have to push against that opening to get more air out. That's the main thing, okay? So if I do that really tight ooh, okay? If I sort of like, okay, here we go. Demo time, ready? So if I do this big like breath in and I let it out with the big open vocal tract and just let all my air out without any voicing, okay? Super easy. If I think I want to get just that much air out in that amount of time with that tight closed lip, it's going to be hard. Took a lot of effort. Didn't feel so great in here either. I had a bit of a squeeze, okay? So my body reacted to that because I was trying to drive way more air through a smaller space than could happen easily. So my body needed to do a lot more work to get it out, and I still was probably a little short on the time, really. So when you're voicing, you don't want to let that much air out as a singer anyway, right? I mean, we have long phrases to sing. We have big money notes to sing, right? We need that audience to be like, oh my God, you're hitting that note for so long, it's so amazing, wah! Okay, right? Totally. Because we got to get the Benjamins. Okay, I know. Make it about expression, blah, blah, blah. But you still need to be able to do it, right? It's a skill set that professional singers need in pretty much any area of singing, right? Pop singers need it. Musical theater people need it. Classical singers absolutely need it. You need that ability to sustain a really long phrase or a really long held note, right? Totally. So the whole point of that is to find the place where you're not driving a ton of air through this tiny, tiny opening. You're actually just giving it kind of just enough air. Like you just want to find that nice balance of, oh yeah, this seesaw could just keep on going. My legs aren't even tired. You know, me and my friend, we're the same height, same weight. We can just keep seesawing all day long. Our legs don't get tired. Everything's good to go. It's all balanced. That's the idea of the semi-occluded vocal tract. So, you know, instead of going to try to get the air out really fast, I just need to find where, yeah, my lips need to stay closed, which is, you know, but I'm just kind of letting the air out nice and easy, okay, which took a little bit of effort in my rib cage. If I take enough air in that I needed to expand my rib cage, took a little bit of effort there, I gotta say. Had to hold back a little bit of that air flow so that it just kind of came out easy through the lips, and I felt like there was no need for my body to respond to too much, okay? If I had voice underneath it, similarly, if I tried to do the driving a lot of air through voice, it does not feel good at all. Oh, wow, that felt really bad. If you only do it a little bit, you probably won't hurt yourself, but you definitely learn not to do it. You're like, ah, that felt like choking. Like everything was compressing so tight to try to control that airflow from probably above my vocal folds that it hurt. It felt like this in my throat, like my supraglottic air was like, argh. Okay? I don't want that as a singer, right? I don't even want a little of that. So what I got to do is figure out, okay, if I have that opening and I have that very light flow, Just sort of move around on that light little flow. My lips tend to tremble a little when I hold them really tight. I don't know if that's, maybe I have a neurological thing. I don't know. They just tremble a little, so don't mind my trembling, my little trembly lips, but most people's don't. So, I don't know. I do have paresis, so who knows? I might have a neurological thing, but anyway. It's subclinical at this point, meaning if I went to a doctor with that, they'd be like, so, there's nothing wrong with you. I'll be like, I know. It's not affecting me at all. So I'm not really worried about it. Okay. So. If you like the eval, eval sounds gross in your head. Like, most people don't like it because it sounds like inside your head when it's really relaxed and easy in your throat. It's just the way the eval goes. But but some people really love the eval. Sometimes that's like where they can find their ease. The vocal folds are vibrating easily. The throat feels fine and released. Whatever it is, whatever occlusion you use, ooh, e, umlaut, lip buzz, whatever it is, okay, raspberries, it doesn't matter. Whatever it is, the main goal, this is the way I like to think of it with myself anyway, my main goal when I use that stuff, because especially with paresis, I have a tendency to really want to drive my voice and make it loud, right? And how many of us fall trapped to that? We need to be loud, we need to be powerful, I need a loud voice, I'm going to be an opera singer, I need to be loud, right? No, you don't. You need to resonate well, right? You need vocal ease for stamina throughout your range. You need ease there to just kind of keep yourself in good shape, right? And to have the vocal flexibility to do dynamics and range jumps and all kinds of vocal acrobatics that we do. So you need ease here. You need vibration to be an easy thing your body can just do without a lot of excess effort, no matter where you are in your range or what dynamic you're at, which takes a lot of fine control for your muscles. This is a very finely tuned thing, which is why it's so hard to figure out. But the main thing is, it's not about obsessing over like, oh, I need my adductors to do this before I start, or I need my, like it doesn't, it's not usually helpful for people to think of like, okay, well, I need my thyroid arytenoid to be like this before I start singing, because you don't have an awareness of what the heck your thyroid arytenoid is doing at any point in time, right? Like, I don't. There's sensation going from my thyroarytenoid into some part of my brain, so that some part of my brain knows, but the big boss part, the big awareness part of my brain, it doesn't know, and it doesn't need to know. And because it doesn't know, if I try to tell my thyroarytenoid what to do with the conscious part of my brain, I'm probably going to muck the whole thing up, right? It's like when that micromanaging boss gets up all in your shizzle and you're like, I know how to do my job, just leave me alone. That's essentially what your prefrontal cortex does to your voicing, like, right? And your breathing, like all the stuff. Once it gets in there and it thinks, no, we need the diaphragm to do this, and we need the thyroarytenoid to be like this, and we need the to be like that, okay? Right? It messes you up. It makes you really tense and tight. It does me, anyway, right? So, typically, most folks get more bang for their buck if they conceptualize it. Like, you want that big boss part of your brain to just be big picture conceptualization, maybe imagery, seesaw, balance, ease, flow, like water bubbling across the forest creek, whatever the heck it is, okay? A lot of water imagery, right, with airflow, ooh, right? So you don't want Niagara Falls coming through your voice. You want trickle, nice, easy airflow through there, okay? Because it's a small space. You're not going to get that much through unless you really, really squeeze. So whatever it is you're doing in whatever range, and same thing, SOVTs tend to be, I gotta say, it's hard to do it higher, because higher is where you start to need more airflow usually, but also that's where I know for myself, I have this tendency to overdo, or I think it needs to sound, like if you're doing SOVT in your high range, it's gonna sound kind of thin and gross in your head because you're not really resonating like optimally, but if you're just working on vocal fold vibration and you're just you know, you're just trying to do something nice and light and easy there, up there, it sounds really like kind of ugly. But that's why if I was singing in an aria, I'm not probably going to do that closed when I sing it, right? I'm probably going to be, I would want to open up my vocal tract and let a little more resonance occur, let the filter kind of emphasize certain areas of the sound that my vocal folds are putting out, which might change a bit of the vibration, but as long as I maintain that sense of ease, I don't need to know how the vibration's changing really, like consciously. I don't need to know. What I need to do is get the big boss man, the prefrontal cortex area, out of the biz of all the other little parts of your nervous system that are coordinating all the tiny little finite details. Let those guys do their own job. They're really good at their job. Let them just do their job and let the boss man think about the overall goal or the overarching feeling or the overarching concept. Yawn space is a good one. Oh, 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 oh. Do like a SOVT into a yawn space. Totally fine. Great. It's a concept. Your boss man, your prefrontal cortex, the CEO, the president of your brain, your nervous system, can handle it. Like, they can handle the concept, right? Big picture. Which is why I wanted to talk about this. So, I don't like Bernoulli. To recap, I don't really like Bernoulli because, first off, it's inaccurate, but second off, the main thing I really don't like about it is that it mystifies vocal fold vibration, and vibration itself can be highly complex if you're looking at a really fine detail. If you're a researcher who wants to figure out about injectables and like how to mimic true vocal fold motion with some sort of artificial material that could get implanted in people who need it because they have a voice disorder, you need to know that stuff. But if you're a singer trying to figure out how to sing, do you need to know that stuff? Probably not, right? Not really. What you need to do is get a sense for when vibration is easy for your body, when it's like the easiest it can be. You have the minimal amount of effort for the right amount of airflow, right? Muscle effort compared to airflow. It's nice balanced, and you don't even have an awareness of what your throat is doing. That's what you need to get to, right? And that takes a little more playfulness. Semi-occluded vocal tracts are a good way to get at it. I thought of something else. Shoot, what was it? Hate it when that happens. 23 minutes. It was something good, too. So I was thinking about balancing it out with the seesaw, subglottal air pressure, right? Oh, yeah, respiratory system stuff as well. So, and you know, one way to sort of think of the airflow, I like to play the game of, especially if you're stuck in that, like, I gotta be loud and powerful mode, think about what is the minimal amount of air you can let through. So using your muscles of inhalation around your rib cage, do a little checking action, hold back that airflow. On an S, make it as soft as it can be, because that's a semi-occluded tract, and you're doing an S, so you're not voicing, but if you want to get a sense for really fine control over us, like small airflow and resisting certain air pressures and stuff and elasticity and things like that. Without voice, you can totally do it on an S. But you want, how soft can it be still under control? Still an S, still making that sound. And then move that into singing. Ooh, or a Z. How easy can I get it using this stuff to keep the airflow minimal? What's the minimum amount you need to stay vibrating? And I think for professionals, that's a really good way to think of it, or for advanced singers, because I do feel like with advanced singers, our biggest downfall is wanting to just be too powerful, driving the voice a little too hard, you know, just trying to push it out a little more than we need to. That's where we tend to get ourselves into a little bit of strain, a little bit of mess as more advanced singers, right? We're not talking about beginning singers who might be singing like this and kind of underdoing, you know, people who, you know, twinkle, twinkle, little star. Okay, they might need to work on, like, bump it up, twinkle, twinkle, little star. Like, you need to get them a little more vocal, you know, a little stronger vibration happening there, a little less airflow, a little more vibration, right? Or whatever. But, you know, for most professionals, the danger is twinkle, twinkle, little star, right? And we tend to like drive it really hard. So we have to learn how to not do that. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are, yeah. Up above the world so high, like a diamond in the sky. I can't, I'm really out of shape on opera. I have been doing a lot of belting, if you can't tell. So, similar concept there though, right? All right, so next up you're not on these visuals. I'm going to talk about the vocal tract and filtering the sound, which gets somewhat complex. I'm going to try to simplify it though and distill it down to just sort of the basics of what I think is helpful. And then where this is essentially building to is, behaviorally speaking, how your body tends to learn this sort of complex stuff. How to get out of your own way, essentially, and let your body learn what it needs to learn. Because that's really, I think, where the challenge of singing comes in, and challenge of learning any kind of complex motion, whether you're a dancer, or you're learning how to ski, or you're learning how to, whatever the heck, play tennis, I don't know. Whatever it is you're learning how to do, and singing being one of those muscle coordination things, you, like, getting out of your own way is, like, pretty much 90% of the battle, right? Like, get out of your own way, let your body figure it out. How do you do that? So that's where this is all heading to, but giving you enough knowledge so that you can play around with how to get out of your way in a safe way. That's sort of the idea. I think that's really the big picture, is making sure you can monitor yourself and keep yourself, in good vocal health, and build that awareness without building in bad habits of overdoing, which we all do. And if you do have those habits of overdoing, how do you counteract them? How do you underdo? Not really, but how do you get to that balance, right? All right. So I will see you, or you will see me, more likely, in the much more likely. I'm not a hacker. I don't know how to like see people through a computer. Meh. So I'll see you next time. Hopefully this is helpful. And I'll see you next time on the Physiology of Singing. I'm going to make that my jingle now. Okay, bye. See you guys later.